dyan. May mami kasi, nandyan yung mami ko, pumasok ngayon. Yan, si Mami Mighty Vice, yan. Ingat po kayo dyan, Mami, ha. Yan, nandito tayo, hindi tayo gaanong lumalapit kasi pinagbabawalan na tayo sa pulis kasi nga daw, nananalo naman tayo. Hindi na nila kailangan pa nating lapitan pa natin sila para magkagulo. Kasi nagkagulo, nandito kasi yung pinakamalupit namin na kasamahan pinuntahan dun sa loob gitna kaya nagkagulo-gulo. Nangaasar pa kasi, panalo na nga, inaasar pa Ayan, gusto daw niya ipaparanas rin yung naasar.
Natin ngayon alam na kung paano yung nag-protesta dahil sinasabi ko na kaya. Sa atin naman maluwalag na binaya dahil may katibayan. Sila walang may katibayan.
Ayan, wala na yan, Mami, hindi na yan kakayanin. Wala na yan, hindi na yan kakayanin.
16 million.
16 million ano kaya doon? Ikala ko 200.
Sana 20 million lamang.
Punta ako 200 lang, 1,000 lang.
Oo, kaya sabi ko 20, 1 million, 2 million. Medyo manipis yung naman ngayon. Pero yung 16 million.
Yung nagpapadala sila sa mga kuwan ng tao, no? Kailangan kasi talaga na hindi umabot yung boto nila talagang wala yung boto nila ngayon. Oo, tahimik na lang tayo, hayaan ninyo mangumawa sila, sino ba mapapagod. Oo nga, Mami, hinayaan na lang namin kasi mas maganda yung ganyan na hindi na sila magngangawa, no? Kahit hindi naman tayo yung napapagod, sila naman ito naman ay anong oras na pero nandito pa rin sila, hinahanap na to ng mga magulang nila. Hinahanap na to ng mga magulang nila tong mga tao dito, no? Nakigulo lang naman sila dito, nakigulo lang naman. Yan ang sabi ko, sa nakigulo. Ayan. Sayang lang. Wala kailangan dun sa Play Store.
Nasa Play Store nga yan. Play Store.
Search GCash account. Nga. Ayaw. May nagamit na yan. Ayan, maraming salamat. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat dyan. Ayan. Hello mga anak, ano na balita? Umalis na ba ang mga salot? Nandito, Mami, nandito pa rin, oh. Nandito pa rin, Mi, oh. Ayan, Mi. Lalong dumarami, kaya nga inaabangan sila, Mi, kasi gusto nilang pasukin tong Comelec, ayan, no. Kaya hindi sila makapasok, Mi. Hanggang dyan lang sila sa Bullards din. Ayan, kagaya lang rin sa amin. Buti pa nga kami, makapunta pa kami dun sa kabila. Pero ayan, nagkagulo-gulo kasi sila dun sa looban sa Kwanmi. Ayan, maraming salamat. Wala, 3 oras na rin ako naka-live. Ayan, maraming salamat. Maraming salamat, Mami Mighty. Mami Mami Lia Takahashi. Ayan, kumusta po kayo dyan? Kumusta po kayong lahat? Ayan, like and share lang po tayo mga kababayan. Like and share po tayo. Ayan, yung isang patrol, ayan, nandun na sa nandun na sa gilid mga kababayan. Pinarada na yung isang patrol doon. Pero ang dami daw nakaabang dito, ang dami daw ngayon nandun sa likuran,
Yung bata sabi kanina, dyan sa likod.
Nandito sa likod ng Comelec mga kababayan, ang dami daw ngayon nakaabang doon. Ang dami nakaabang. Ano yan po, ayan
Itong mga to, nagtutuloy lang yan na mamasyal.
Oo. Nagkukunyari lang yan, tapos umupo. Ayan. Dumami. Ayan, kaya nakapag-sagawa sila ng talagang kuha nila ngayon. Pero alam mo kung sinong manoy-manoy nila dyan, yung babae na yan, yan. Yung payat na yan. Ayan, hindi man ako natatakot rin dyan. Lagi ko nakikita yan.
Yes, lang tayo. Ano yan?
Pares lang tayo tao eh. Ginagawa lang nyo yung trabaho nyo katarantaduhan sa amin katalinuhan tong ginagawa namin dito. Ayan, maraming salamat. Like and share po tayo mga kabayan. Malapit na tayo mag 2030 likes, ay 2040 likes, no?
Bumangat siya kantahan.
Ayan, kung ano-ano na lang kayo yung mga kinakanta nila dyan, hindi naman maintindihan. Hindi naman maintindihan yung mga kinakanta nila. Wala na nga silang magagawa sa buhay. Pero si Sir Prince talagang hindi siya natatakot dyan sa babae kasi alam niya talaga na hindi lang kakayanin si Sir Prince sa Englisan lang daan yung babae Mike so mo. Ayan, ayun oh. Ayun na, lumiritso na sir eh. Ayun oh. Ayun yung pumunta ron sa may patrol. Ayun oh. Ayun yung naka-blue na yun. Ayun, maraming salamat. Maraming salamat. Ayan, kawawa naman ang mga kabataan. Anong oras na oh. Anong oras na nagtatrabaho pa rin sila mga bayan? Anong oras na?
Pati ito nakita niyo yung patay din
Ayan, anong oras na ngayon? Ayun, nagtatrabaho pa rin sila. Ayun, napakarami na nila oh. Baka may bayad yan. Meron talaga yan Sir Arnido. Ano ka ba? Hindi ka ba hindi naman tayo bago lang nito eh. Hindi tayo bago sa mga ganito nilang style Sir Arnido. Alam natin to, may bayad talaga to. Ganito talaga sila. Kanina nagsintakbuhan nga ano. Paborito rin nila yung mga ganyan mga bayan. Paborito nila yan na natutukan mo ng kamera. Sa akin hindi ko sila tinututukan ng kamera, no? Hindi man yan sila sisikat sa akin. Binabantayan ko dito yung mga kapulisan. Yung mga kapulisan yung binabantayan ko rito mga kabayan, no? Kasi napapagod rin kaya yung mga kapulisan natin sa kakakuan sa kanila mga kabayan, kakabantay kasi nga gusto nilang pasukin tong Comelec. Hindi naman pwedeng pasukin to. Pero kanina nung isang babae dyan, ayaw niya magpa-video kasi hindi daw alam ng nanay niya na nandito siya. Oo nga yun ang mahirap eh. Hindi siya nakapa-video eh kasi oo nga eh. Parang napagkamalan lang eh sa tapos pumunta rito. Pero mga kababayan, huwag kayong alis dyan. Sa likuran kasi marami rin. Marami din sila dun sa likuran. Ayan, ang dami daw nila dun sa loob. Mga kababayan. Napakadami daw nila ngayon dun sa likuran, no? Sa likuran sila ngayon nagpupugad yung iba, no? Ayan, ang dami nila. Ayan, maraming salamat. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng nagla-likes. Ayan, pabuti na natin 2,100 likes mga kababayan, no? 2,100 likes mga kababayan. Konti na lang yan mga kababayan, no? Ayan, napakadami ng ating mga kapulisan mga kababayan. Pero kawawa naman rin natin mga kapulisan, sa dami nila mga kababayan. Tingnan nyo naman, no? Ayan, hanggang doon yan sa dulo mga kabayan. Talagang walang makadaan muna ngayon dito, no? Kung nakikita nyo yun doon, kung nakikita nyo yun mga kabayan, ayun, mga kapulisan pa yan, nakaabang dyan. Ayan din yung dati Mike, nung ganyan din kinakanta nila. O nga, ito rin sila, ang daming tao sa likuran at mga kapulisan din doon. O nga eh. Kasi nga ma'am, nandito silang lahat ngayon nagpapasaway. Ayan, nandito sila ngayon lahat nagpapasaway, no? Kung hindi lang sana sila nagpapasaway, hindi sana kawawa yung ating mga kapulisan, mga kababayan, no? Ito, talagang napapatawag lang sila, no? Napapatawag lang sila ng dahil dito, pinapatawag sila. Ayan, meron pa doon na mga kapulisan, mga kababayan. Hindi lang rin to dito, nandun pa rin, no? Nandun rin yung mga SWAT, mga kababayan, nandun rin sila, oh. Andun rin sila banda mga kababayan. Andun sila nakapisto ngayon. Ayun oh. Ayan, mga SWAT yun nandun mga kababayan. Ayan, pinag-aasar pa sa mga tao dito mga kababayan na BBM. Kaya wala talaga, kawawa talaga sila. Ayan, pinang-aasar pa sila, no? Ayan, maraming salamat mga kababayan, no? Maraming salamat. Saya-saya na nila sa picture-picture, no? Hindi nila alam yung mga nag-aantay sa kanila, nagkuhan sa kanila dito, nag-aabang, no? Ayan. Mega love shout out sa'yo, Idol Boss, Mike LB Gotilio at Ate Melby. Ayan, mega love shout out naman sa'yo dyan, Sir Rix Adventure Vlog. Bakit hindi ka pumunta rito? Bakit hindi ka pumunta? Bakit hindi ka pumunta dito, Sir Rix Adventure? Ayan, napakaraming tao ngayon, no? Napakaraming tao, Sir Rix Adventure. Alam mo kung gaano kadami dito, yun, no? Napakadami. Pati nga dito doon sa likuran, marami pa rin, no? Pati doon sa likuran, mga kabayan. Like and share po tayo mga kababayan. Like and share po tayo sa ating live, no? Ang mga kabataan hindi nila tumulong sa mga magulang na nagka-silbi pa sila sa bahay. O nga, ganun talaga. Mga kabataan, ma'am mga kabataan kasi, ayan, wala tayong magagawa. Hindi nila matanggap talo na manok. Ayan, o nga, manok nila, ma'am. Hindi talaga nila yung matatanggap. Manok nila at kikipag-sabwatan sa CCP, NPA, Komunista Group. Congrats BBM, Sara, Unity. Ayan, maraming salamat. Maraming pong salamat sa inyong lahat, no? Sa lahat pong nakakantabay sa ating live, ayan, maraming pong salamat sa inyong lahat, mga bayan. Ayan, araw-gabi tayo dito mga kababayan. Araw-gabi tayo na narito, no? Araw-gabi tayo. Oh! Nagabula ng...
Nag-aho. Dapat umabol ka.
Hindi ko napansin kung saan kayo eh.
Dapat alam mo, amoy-amoyin mo yung direksyon namin kung saan kami patungo. Ano nangyari doon? Mahuya, pag inamoy yung... Grabe, daming nagkatulakan doon. Doon sa may Orsabispo. Daming nagkarali.
Dito naman. Dito nag-concert.
Nag-concert?
Oo, kasi nandito si Prince yung nagsisigaw ng pailang kandidato na Lini Lugaw. Ayan o. Ayan o. Nandyan sila o. Ayan mga kababayan, di ba? Ayan, nagkagulo-guluhan na sila mga kababayan. Ayan, kasi hindi sila butante, no? Ayan, doon na nagkagulo sa hindi butante. Ayan, alam na, hindi sila butante mga kababayan.
Kasi baka kami hindi kanina.
Nandun pa nga siguro eh. Nandun pa ba?
Bakit? Anong meron? May director, kami yung cameraman. Kayo ba ang mga Spartacus? Hanggang doon, nagkadiktik. Akala ko, kasi kayo na rin yung artista eh. Ay, kung pwede lang sumama kami. Kaso kulang ang talent fee natin. Spartacus talaga. Grabe dito na.
Ayan, medyo umuulan na ha. Medyo umuulan na mga kababayan. Ito medyo umuulan na ha. Hindi pa tayo natatapos dito. Umuulan na mga kababayan ha. Ayun, si Sir Prince talagang in-interview na ha. Hindi na nila napipigilan. In-interview na nila si Sir Prince ngayon. Ayun ha. Bawal ka kasi. Kung hindi ka lang bawal, pwede ka sana. Kaya nga, bawal sir eh. Naka-duty kayo. Ayan, lumayas na rin sa Tagalan. 300 lang daw eh. 300. Kailangan kasi daw sir, sabi nila, kailangan nilang mag-rally kasi hindi daw sila makapasa sa kuha nila kung hindi sila mag-rally. Kaya makirally sila para makapasa na. Bobo rin eh. Bakit kayo nag-UP kung ayaw naman kayong papasahin? Galit na galit sila sa amin kanina dyan. 300. Oo. Tapos kailangan nilang makipag-rally. O, Bisaya ko sir, taga Davao. Oo. Taga Matina, Davao City sir. Ayun lagi naman kasama yan. Bawat rally. Oo, volunteer ni Sir Bongbong Marcos talaga yan. Taga Tagum ko sir. Dito man sa inyo, dito may gikan na ito ni Aging Adlaw.
Kauban ka nila?
Oo, kauban ko sir. Nagmotor ako dito padulong. Kahit taga dito mo kaya, ay. Meeting di Abanse. Tupit sa 5. Bakit naghana? Sobra sir. Oh, diri mo pinaka-tong diri pinakalas. Diri Paranaque may pinakadaghan. Lumayas, bakit sa inyo to? Cute. Hindi nga kayo nakabuto eh. Kaninang tinatanong namin ako nakabuto, hindi. Ay, wala nakabuto. Sayawan ka ngayon dyan. Wala kayo. Kanina layas yan silang lahat nung lumabas yung professor ng UP. Lumayas yan silang lahat. Mga estudyante ko lang kayo Wala na kayong negosyo, alis na kayo rito. Umalis sila. Takot yan sila eh. Nandyan lang yun sa looban eh. Kaya lang Bongbong Marcos kasi yun eh. Yan, nagagalit na si Calix to. Oh, interview pa. Yung nag-interview pa naman dito doon sa ibang bansa ipapalabas. Oh, yung mga Amerikano yun sa ibang bansa ipapadala yun. Kaya sabi niya, pwede ba kayo ma-interview? Hindi kami pwedeng sumagot na interview. Baka kayo sir, pwede na ma-interviewin. Bakit narito kayo? Hindi naman kayo Pilipino. Hindi naman kayo dito newscaster dito sa Pilipinas. Ayaw rin nila eh. Ayaw rin lang magpa-interview. Hindi. Doon nila ipapalabas sa TV sa kanila. Sa ibang bansa na nagkagulo ang buwan dito. Ganon yung mga kanila eh. Normal lang naman to, mga rally-rally. Wala. nakipag-usap tayo sa kanila mga kababayan, no? Mga kababayan din natin, no? Mga kababayan natin mga pulis. Ayan na, may taga Tago, may taga Davao. Ayan, mga kababayan natin halos dito, no? May mga iba't ibang lugar naman, no? Iba't ibang lugar naman. Pero okay naman sila mga kababayan, no? Wala namang mga problema, mga kababayan. Ayan, wala namang problema, sir, no? Ayan. Napakalaki ng grabing galit nila, grabing galit. Dapat huwag kasing galitin mga kababayan, no? Chill lang. Binabantayan natin dito, yung mga pulis lang naman eh. Dito marami nga manonood pag maraming pulis. Walang problema sa may mga normal lang yan. Sus. Uy, bakit nandito na naman sa kabila? Sabi ko sa inyo, nandito na sa naharangan. Ayan. Ayan na. Yan ang sabi ko sa inyo mga kababayan, no? Ayan na, napakadami kasi nila, no? Ayan.
Pinabantayan lang nila.
Ayan talagang kuan mga kababayan, no? Ayan ayan, napakadami kasing nakagwardya talaga ngayon dito mga kababayan. Ayan
Talagang habang gabi.
Ayan, madilim, maulan kasi mga kababayan, umuulan na. Ayan, mayroon pa rin yung puwersa kasi doon sa kabila, no? Mayroon pa rin kasi yung puwersa sa kabila mga kababayan na hindi natin basta-basta iwanan mga kababayan, no?
Wow, umuulan na.
Umuulan nga, pero ang problema, kasali to sa trabaho natin. Kasali sa trabaho natin tong ulan mga kababayan, di ba? Kahit maulan, wala tayong magagawa dyan. Kasali rin sa trabaho natin tong umuulan. Ayan. Diretso na. Ayan, kahit maulan, kasali sa trabaho rin natin to mga kababayan na ipapakita natin sa kanila tong mga nangyayari, di ba?
Really happening, my God. No shelter. Shelter talaga. Bring your shelter. Okay. No shelter.
Ayan,
Waterproof yan. Even it's waterproof. Will destroy the cover.
ayan. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat, no? Ayan, kailangan nila talaga. Ay, mga kababayan ko pala yung nandun. Kaya nandun ako, kinakausap nila ako, taga Davao rin. Nandun, kaya nga nandun ako nakatambay yung mga kapulisan. Oo. Ayan, talagang kailangan nila, no? Kailangan nila ngayon. Ayan, like and share po tayo mga kababayan. Para makikita yung mga kagwapuhan at kagandahan nila, no? At para makita yung kagandahan at kagwapuhan. Ayan, kailangan nila ngayon, burger sila talaga. Ayan, like and share mga kababayan. Like and share na lang po kayo dyan mga kababayan, no? Kasi umulan na. Talagang malakasang ulan na.
Mag-sexy ba o mag-leader kayo?
Yan na po.
Patay na, naggalit na si sir.
Sa magpulis ka, kayong nag-apply sa pagpupulis. Ayun, sumunod sa sistema natin. Yung better get out. Inside.
Bawal natin kukunan pala yan.
Bawal?
Oo, wag natin kunan. Kasi pinapalisi, may palisi sila.
Sino nagsabi?
Ayun, kasi nga ba wala daw silang mute ko lang. naka-mute. Ayan, maraming salamat, no. Maraming salamat mga kababayan. Nakapikit lang si ma'am eh. Tingnan mo kahit pinagalitan. Hindi pa, dito lang. May officer sila eh. May officer. Ayan na. Papagalitan ka rin pala pag wala kang bis. Kaya oo, ayan. Maraming salamat, no. Maraming salamat. Ayan, mag-likes lang po kayo diyan mga kababayan, no. Ayan, medyo maulan na mga kababayan kung nakikita nyo. Ayan na, maulan na, no. Oh, delikado pala. Nakapikit lang sila, oh. Hindi na sila sumagot.
Talaga dyan,
Ayan, bawal pala yan. Pero hindi ko naman sila, wag mo lang silang videoan, hindi ko na rin sila binidyoan. For safety na lang rin sa mga nagkakamali na, siguro mga mapayat kasi mabibigat. Kaya mabibigat yung base nila mga kabayan, kaya ayan.
Wala tayong tutuluyan eh.
Kaya
Tutuluyan ba dito?
wala, sa bahay lang.
Payong lang hinahanap, matutuluyan.
Ayan, maraming salamat, no. Maraming salamat kay Wonder Philippines. Ayan, it's Wonder Philippines.
You see the formation? You see the formation?
Bawal pala.
See that?
Hindi ko kinunan kasi sabi ni sir na
Ano? No footage, okay?
kasi nga ito
Ganda nung eksena kanina doon. Paroon kami.
Paroon dito nga rin, paroon din eh. Dito paroon din. Doon.
Pagano'n lang kami, balikan pa ano kami, gano'n eh. O, tumugtog na yung bangkana ha. Nakabay na kapulungin ka lang. Grabe, no? Kung nakita nyo, nalaisipatapos itong delicate ka. Hindi tayo makakapag-interview kapag pinakita natin tolerant tayo. Nagbabalak sila pa. Hindi, mamaya. Just neutral. Do not put yourself in any color. Right now, babayan? Pero talaga nagbabalak sila ng bagay. Oo. Do not put yourself ha. Are you? Sabi ko na ilas pag sama ka sa akin para marunong ka. Salita ka mag-isip ka. Pinakawawalang nilang pulis. Sundalo, alam yung mga yan eh.
Ngayon naman po, mga kababayan, na kinikilita na natin, malapit na rin naman yan maging opisyal, no, na meron na pong pinili ang taong bayan, bawat Pilipino. Sa kasalukuyan po ay nais kong batiin si dating Senador Ferdinand Marcos sa kanyang pangunguna at patuloy na pangunguna, and I hope it can be official soon at matapos na at mapapanatag na ang lahat. Binabati ko ang pamilya ni dating Senador Ferdinand Marcos sa pagpili sa kanya ng higit na nakararami sa ating mga kababayan na maging hahalinhin bilang Pangulo ng bansa. Congratulations po sa inyo. Sa atin namang mga kababayan, no, ito naman ay aking panawagan. Uulitin ko po, hindi po magtatagumpay ang susunod na administrasyon pagpatuloy po ang ating hinagpis, kalungkutan, o maaaring baka meron pa tayong sama ng loob. Mga kababayan, sa aking mga supporters, Ito'y panawagan ko sa aking mga supporters, panawagan ko rin sa mga bumoto sa akin at mga kababayan natin. Kailangan natin magkaisa, tulungan ang bagong pinili ng ating mga kababayan. Opo, kailangan natin magtagumpay pare-pareho. Hindi po magtatagumpay si President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at si Vice President-elect Sara Duterte at 10 na mga senador na napili at mga kongresista o halal ng bayan kung tayo mga mamamayan ay hindi makikisa. Yung pagboto natin ay isang bagay lamang. Salamat sa Diyos, may demokrasya pa rin sa bansa. Pero tayo na mga mamamayan ay may responsibilidad na suportahan, tumulong, at makiisa sa mga gawain, layunin ng susunod na administrasyon. Huwag tayo, ako'y nananawagan, huwag tayo makikibahagi sa anumang gulo, anumang alingas-ngas, o anumang hindi pagkakasunduan. We have to give chance to the new leadership. Opo, kailangan tayo bilang mamamayan ay para magtagumpay ang ating bansa, kailangan tayo ay makikiisa. Sapagkat, mga kababayan, ulitin ko, tayo ay isang bangka lamang. At the end of the day, nagkahiwa-hiwalay ng damdamin, pananaw, paniwala, o even pagboto. Pero, iisang bansa tayo.
I don't know. That's the first time I've been asked that question.
You were exposed to a life of privilege. How did this shape the way you are today?
There's no denying we were very comfortable. My parents would never let us forget. This is from the people.
President Duterte said you were a spoiled brat and a weak leader.
Well,
What makes you think and believe that you will be the champion for unification?
I'm not the champion for unification. I'm just saying that unification and the unity is a necessary condition.
Just days before the Filipino votes in a hotly contested presidential elections, we speak to candidate Bongbong Marcos in private. Thank you very much for granting us this interview, Senator Bongbong Marcos.
Thank you for having me. Maraming salamat.
Now, counting the days to the election, sir.
Yes.
Kamusta na po kayo ngayon?
Well, malaking nawala yung pagod namin after the Easter weekend. So now we're back doing rallies and going out. And although, syempre, papunta na tayo doon sa organization, the people on the ground to make sure everybody knows what to do. Vote protection, essentially. Yeah, but again, to solidify. Kasi essentially, the surveys are very encouraging. Pero numero pa lang yan eh. Kailangan pang gawing boto yan, tapos kailangan bantayin yung boto na yan. So that's really what we are doing now. Although we won't stop. People tell me to take a day off. I cannot. Dahil ang training ko ganyan eh. Basta't eleksyon, kailangan porsigido talaga. So that's what, until the very last day that we can campaign, we will campaign.
You know, sir, much of who you are today has been largely shaped by your past. You were 8 years old when you and your family moved into Malacanang. Can you tell us, what did you like about living in the presidential palace, and were there any downsides?
7 years old. I spent
7
my
years
8th
old.
birthday in the
Yeah.
palace already. I remember my father was newly elected president kasi my birthday is in September. at that time, pumapasok ang presidente, Enero. So, he took me to school. That was the last time that ever happened, I suppose. So yeah, 7th, it was my 7th birthday. But 7th, my 8th birthday was the first birthday I spent in the palace. What was it like? In the beginning, it was really, parang it was a much simpler, parang bahay pa rin, and it was a very, things weren't so hectic. The palace is divided into the private areas and the office areas, yung mga tawag namin study room, and the offices of my father, etc. You're in the presidential palace, and you always have to be, how do you say, at the very least presentable. Because the minute you leave your room, you do not know who's going to be there. I mean, there have been many times that I came out of my room, ang kasalubong ko, presidente, na nagsi-state visit, na kasama ng father ko. So mahirap naman, nakapajama akong lalabas, you know. So that
Bata pa kasi kayo no?
yeah, we were still small, but you get used to it. I mean, you get used to the idea that the only real area are the private areas. The rest of the palace is an office. It was nice. What did I like about it? You're a little spoiled when you're in the palace, because anything, especially as a kid, you're very well attended to. You're very well cared for. But it's a very unusual, when pagbata ka, akala mo yung buhay mo, kahit na medyo naiba, akala mo normal yun, lahat ng tao, ganun. But we soon learned very quickly, because we had friends na, we go to their homes, and we go, then nagbabiyahe na kami. Nakikita namin, hindi, ibang klase pala itong tinitirahan namin. Nakatira kami sa palasyo.
Siguro pag-usapan na lang natin, sir, kung sakali po ba manalo kayo, will that be your official residence, or like si President Duterte kasi ngayon, iba po, di ba? Yung tinitirahan niya sa bahay pangarap
Well, the palace is still the official residence. To tell you the truth, we haven't actually thought about it because ang planning, I always tell them, the planning horizon is until May 9. I guess we'll just have to attend to it when. But I won't live outside of the palace.
Yes.
Dahil nandun yung opisina. So you cannot be too far away.
Okay.
And all the facilities, the communications, nandun lahat eh. So it's your office, and you cannot really be very far away.
You appeared in a movie as yourself in your father's biopic, Iginuhit ng Tadhana. You were a child giving a speech about your dream of becoming a politician. Ilang taon po kayo nun? Tsaka nung time na yun, naisip nyo na po ba na magpolitiko talaga?
Well, hindi nawawala sa pag-isip. No one would let me forget that I was my father's son. Maliit pa nga ako, sasabi, one day magpresidente kayo. Pala, pabiro.
Pero you also mentioned in some interviews you wanted to be a rock star and an astronaut.
That's right.
Paano kayo napunta talaga? Pero napunta kayo sa politika? Was there ever, parang may track ba kayo papunta na lang
Hindi
doon?
ko ma-explain. Umiiwas ako sa politika. Talaga. Talagang tinutulak ako na. Teenager pa ako, marami na nagsabi, ito yung gagawin mo. Sabi ko, ayoko, tapos na yan kasi nagawa na ng father ko yan. Saka nakita ko yung buhay ng father ko at saka mother ko. Mahisap ko, ang hirap naman ng buhay nito. Ang daming sakripisyo, at saka ang bigat ng trabaho. So sabi ko, hindi ko na lang gagawin yan. And in my studies, I tended towards mathematics and science. So yun yung astronaut part na yun. At the time, I was watching the preparations for the moon landing. Moon landing was in 1969. So yun ang talagang tinitignan ko. In fact, when my father had a state visit to the United States in 1968, Senator Inouye, who was a good friend of my father, sinalubong kami sa Hawaii. And Senator Inouye asked me, what do you want to do while you're in the States? My first answer immediately is, I want to visit NASA. So, linipad ako sa Cape Canaveral in Florida. And they took me around and I was like, so that was my interest, my dream. And then when I was studying already yung high school level na, sabi nung isang my housemaster, yung pare, na nagtuturo sa amin. Sabi, you're always magulo. Ang gulo-gulo mo. Siguro wala kang, you have too much time when you're study an instrument. So I did. And I've got very, very, very interested in music. Only because also, in our house, because my mother is very musical, laging may music, so it was something that was very close to. And then I was exactly at that age when I first went to I was 12 years old. But we're talking 1969. So, rock and roll, right? Yun ang, nasa London pa, nasa England pa. Not in London, but in England. So, talaga, yung mga nababasa ko, napupuntahan ko, napapanood ko, yung mga sikat na naging kaibigan ko. So, I got very, very interested in music. And
Pero yun nga, sir, you ended in politics and you would always say na malaking influence ng dad nyo. Pero, and your mom, pero meron po ba kayong differences with your father or can you remember a time na you had a disagreement?
no. He's the boss. You don't disagree. If he tells you to, because he's always right anyway. As far as in our situation, hindi naman nagkakamali yun. Hindi naman magbibigay ng bad advice yun. At saka kung may inutos sa'yo, kailangan mo talagang gawin because hindi naman niya gagawin, hindi niya ka namang utusan kung hindi importante.
We will talk more about your family and also politics because the Marcos family is back in national politics and how did they do it? We will talk about that and more when we return. This is In Private on CNN Philippines. You're watching In Private with presidential candidate, former Senator Bongbong Marcos. Sir, as the only son and namesake of the late former President Marcos, you were exposed to a life of privilege. How did this shape the way you are today?
Well, inevitably, you get used. I mean, of course, there's no denying we were very comfortable, and we were very privileged as the president's children. But my parents would never let us forget that this is not yours. This is from the people. Everything we have, all the advantages that we have gained, any successes that we have achieved, and any comfort or privilege that we enjoy comes from the people. And that's why you have to serve. And so that was well balanced. It was very clear to us that we were very, very lucky. Hindi ito, hindi, dapat talaga ganitong buhay. Hindi, nasabi sa amin.
Pero sinabi niyo dapat balansehin, di ba laging binibilan ng parents niyo yung balansehin pa rin yung buhay. I'm sure narinig niyo po that there was one speech where President Duterte said you were a spoiled brat and a weak leader. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah. Well, I think he was playing politics. I think one of the things we have learned about PRRD is that he likes to keep everyone on their toes. Ayaw niya yung masyado kong mag-reload. Talagang he's always making sure everybody's thinking hard about what they're doing. So I think that was one of those instances.
And so, from a privileged life, your family was forced out of Malacanang during the 1986 People Power Revolt. But how did you explain those events to your children naman po as they were growing up?
Well, my children, when they started, it really happens when they start to read. They can read the newspaper already. And my children were born in essentially the 90s. So, andyan pa rin, meron pa rin mga anti-Marcos na galit sa father ko, galit sa amin, etc. And I gave them the same explanation that it wasn't my parents, but my aunts and uncles. I remember when my father was Senate President, every day, ang dyaryo, oust Marcos, oust Marcos, oust Marcos. I don't know, hindi ko na naintindihan, but it was a big issue. Kasi patakbo na siya ng presidente noon. So, sabi ko, so I asked one of my uncles, and I said, why, ba't ganyan? Ba't ano bang ginawa ng father ko? Ba't ganyan sila? Sabi niya, hindi, ganyan talaga politika. Because they want, gusto nga silang nakaupo dyan eh. Kaya gusto nilang tanggalin yung tatay mo para sila na ang umupo. Ganyan lang talagang politika. Sabi niya, walang nanalo ng election by 100%. Laging may papatikos yan. Yan ang buhay ng politiko. So, I mean, it's something that we understood immediately. And that's the explanation that I gave my children.
And how about a lot of our voters now are more than 50% youth talaga eh, yung mga millennials, Gen Z. How about the issue of martial law? How would you explain it to them?
Well, I think the best people who can explain it to them are the relatives who went through it. And we have explained it. We've been explaining it for 40 years already. And you know, I explained it by saying that the situation at the time was dire. We were fighting a war on two fronts. We had the secessionist movement in the south. We have the dissident NPAs, CPP NPA in the countryside, and there was something. And these people who wanted to bring down the government, and the government had to defend itself. So that was my understand. That's always been my understanding of it, and I think it was because if you look at the historical record, totoo naman, ganyan naman talaga ang nangyari. So that's why I think that that's how I explained that was what your lolo had to do. He felt he had to do that.
But once in a while, and you have also mentioned this, na nabibiktima din po kayo ng fake news, sinasabi nyo.
Yeah, but
So, why is that?
It's a social media. It's a social media. Everybody's a victim of fake news.
So kayo po, tingin nyo, may mga ganun na rin, parang fake news targeted against you.
Oh yeah. Oh, I could give you a whole list of hundreds of instances with that.
But Senator, kasi I just have to ask you that misinformation is also being attributed kasi naman to your supporters, to your online supporters. Even Facebook and Twitter, they took down hundreds of pages of spamming behavior kasi daw parang hindi siya organic. Or how do you say about allegations that your supporters have a machinery of disinformation, and when you say not organic, it's not
Find
true?
me one. Show me one. One, just one.
May mga tinanggal po ang Twitter and Facebook.
But those are their individual accounts. And besides, I don't know, Twitter, some of these things are, these are from the United States. They don't know what's going on here. So maybe they might be mistaken in some instances. But again, these are individuals. Yung sinasabi ng trolls, thousands. So hanapan mo ako ng isa. Just one. Find me a troll.
What you're
That's
saying
working
is
for us.
they can't prove it and directly
They don't
link it to you.
exist. That's why you show me the place where there are hundreds of trolls sitting in front of a computer spreading fake news. It doesn't exist. But,
If ever
I'm malakas ang loob ko kasi alam kong hindi nangyayari yun eh.
na walang trolls that can be directly linked to your campaign or to you.
There are no trolls. We have no trolls.
Okay.
None. Not a single one. I have been offered a click army. I've been offered a troll. Hindi ko ginagamit yan. Because it's very simple. You know what the evolution of that is? Is because when I started doing the vlogs, which is we're now up to our 210th, something like that. When we started doing the vlogs, ibuboost ba natin? Mag-a-add ba tayo? Sabi ko, wag na kasi hindi natin malalaman kung ano talaga yung numero. So up to now, we don't boost. We don't do ads. You saw the Facebook, zero. Ako.
Yung ads, yung
I have
amount
not-
spent,
I
no?
don't,
Yeah.
because we got used to working that way. And alam mo, ang mga bata, the most heavy users of social media are younger people. My son showed me 2 clicks. It's a troll. that's boosted. Wala na, it's not effective anymore. Kitang-kita mo naman yung mga comment, iba pare-pareho. Iba-iba kunwari, pare-pareho yung address, iba-iba yung sinasabi. O pare-pareho yung iba-iba yung address pero pare-pareho yung sinasabi. Halatang-halata naman eh. So
So moving forward, sir, would you support, kasi may bills po pending bills, diniscuss na rin siya on committee level, that will penalize propagators of fake news or disinformation. Kung gagawin siyang batas, sir,
how do you do it?
as a policy.
How do you do it? One of the greatest advantages of the internet in general, not just social media, is that it's interactive and it's open source, if that's what you want to call it. So anybody can participate. And how do you control that? And why would you want to? So it is so far self-regulating because it's really very hard for a government to control it. Siguro Zuckerberg can control it, but I don't know if we can. I don't know if even if you there's there's an action that the legislation is always behind technology. Because it takes time for the legislators to understand what the technology really means, how it works. By which time it has moved on already. Kaya laging behind yung batas. So I don't know how you will do that. I think the only defense for everybody is to interact and to read everything. Don't read one thing. Yung tinatawag na echo chamber. Kayo lang. Ang galing-galing mo. Hindi, galing talaga. Hindi, ang galing eh. Nagbobulan lang kayo. So it's you have to be more. You have to show a little discretion in what you believe in.
Sir, next, let's talk about your message of unity. His aspirations for national unity and a glimpse of his presidency. More of that with presidential candidate, former Senator Bongbong Marcos, when we return. We're still with presidential candidate, former Senator Bongbong Marcos in private, right here on CNN Philippines. Senator, so if you want to be a father to the nation, people would be interested to know how you lead your own household. Paano po ba ang buhay sa loob ng bahay ng pamilya Marcos?
I don't know. That's the first time I've been asked that question. I don't know how to answer that. Of course, we all think it's normal. And I'm sure it's different from everybody else, at least a little bit. But we live the generally very perfectly normal life. Mga anak ko kasi, Sanders 27, 26, 25. So dikit-dikit sila. So they're just most of the time, most of their past few years has been them studying. So kami lang dalawa nung kami mag-asawa because they studied abroad. So it's wala, simple lang naman ang buhay namin. It's really, if you, with my wife especially, it's all work. She's a lawyer, and as most lawyers do, they work very hard. So does she. And ako naman, of course, when I was in office, as governor, as congressman, as senator, maraming trabaho. So that's really what all you ended up doing.
Disciplinarian po ba kayo? Pinapayagan niyo po ba sila ng late night? Yung puro lalaki ano po? Paano po kayo lumalabas?
Yun ang swerte namin, lalaki. So lumaki silang nag-iisa. So nasanay silang nag-iisa. So nung una, may curfew pa eh. Hindi talaga nasusunod. So patras yung curfew. Hanggang finally, sinabi siya, pasabuhay lang kayo. At saka kung Nagsara na. Gusto niyo pag magkwentuhan, doon kayo sa bahay para at least alam namin nandun kayo, safe kayo. So, we're not strict that way. We're strict about studies. Ang usapan ko sa mga anak ko, basta you get straight A's, you can do anything you want.
Let's talk about your mom.
Yes.
So, former First Lady Imelda Marcos, did she have a say in your decision to run for president this time? Kasi dati, no, when you were just vice president, she had a lot to say.
Yeah.
Ano po yung naging influence niya? And for her, what does this battle personally mean?
Put it this way. Even my father, I don't think would object if I say she's the supreme politician in the family. My father is the statesman. He's the political genius. He's the all that. Yung mother ko, talagang politika yun. Yung makita mo eh. My mother can connect with anyone. From her classmate from I don't know how many years ago to the person working in the palengke to Gaddafi to the Queen of England, lahat na nagiging kaibigan niya. Anything that happens in politics, we always ask her, what do you think? Is this a good idea? Should we do it like this or should we wait? Laging, and I can say that I learn something new every time I talk to my mother, especially in seryosong usapan na politika. I always learn something new. And so yes, she has always a very big influence on everything. As to deciding to run for the presidency, well, it was, of course, she was part of the pero it wasn't, hindi ko miniting na anong gagawin natin ngayon. It's just, every so often, Ma'am, ano kaya? Ano sa palagay mo? Anong tingin mo? Anong basa mo sa sitwasyon? Ang galing niyan eh. Ang galing niyan. Alam niya yung, at saka she knows the person and she's seen it all before. So, yes, she's now, she's a little frustrated because pinagbabawalan naming sumama sa rally. Eh gustong sumama, lalo na pagka yung mga Tacloban, yung mga sa Leyte, yun sabi niya, I can help you with your campaign, kanya. Sabi ko, yes ma'am, but it's COVID pa eh, delikado pa eh. So yun, medyo frustrated siya ng konti when my sisters come and watch a rally or watch may event. Sasabihin nila, alam mo, si mami tawag ng tawag. Kasi daw yung shirt mo hindi nakabuton o yung mikropono mo hindi ka marinig. Basta marami siyang comment. Talagang siya, very conscious siya sa ganyan. So, yes, she's very, very, very involved in everything that we're doing. But the decision was mine. I really have to say that the decision was mine. Of course, I consulted everyone whose opinions I value.
Talking about the women in your life, Senator, ano po ba ang magiging role ng wife nyo if and when you become president, and also your sister, si Senator Amy?
Well, Amy will be senator for another 3 years. So, I'm sure she will continue doing her advocacies and yung mga interest niya at yung mga simulan niya. I was just discussing this with my wife before coming here. And she teaches kasi. So she considers herself not only a lawyer, but she considers herself a teacher. And she says that she would like to be able to help, even especially, ayaw niya nasa public capacity. She wants to be independent in a sense now. She's working privately to help the educational system somehow. As an example that I said, when I was governor, that's when she started teaching because she said it would be improper for me to practice in the province kasi alam mo na, influence spending na lang ang mangyayari dyan. So nagturo na lang siya. And basta there were instances na nagpatulong ako sa kanya, lalo na nung pinuntahan ko yung jail namin. Sabi ko, kalahati dyan, dapat hindi nakakulong eh. Wala lang abogado yan eh. Kaya nandiyan pa yan. So then, dinala niya yung estudyante niya, gave free legal advice, all of these things. Marami silang natulungan. So I'm sure it will be something in that vein.
Okay. And you have said a few times before na when you were asked what's the worst mistake or worst quality of your father, na sabi mo, he trusted the wrong people. And pero Senator Amy is saying, ngayon pa lang daw marami nang nag-audition to be a part of your cabinet So parang paano po ba kayo magtitiwala and what will be your basis in choosing the members of your cabinet?
Well, number one is competence. There's no use hiring somebody who's incompetent. Yung willingness to work willing to sacrifice. Because look, the key to the next administration is going to be the economy. A failure and success of the next will be how we handle the economic situation. Hindi pa naman tayo post-COVID, But as we try to recover, we try to manage COVID, how do we? And the new world, COVID changed everything. So the managers, the economic managers are going to be key. The best economic managers are in private life. Mayayaman na yan. Ang laki ng kinikita ng mga yan. To have asked them to come into government and to put all their assets in a trust or however the system they're going to use it is, and to give up that very how do you say,
Lucrative,
successful
yeah.
and life is not an easy thing.
May naisip na po ba kayo ngayon ng mga pangalan?
Another thing, another thing I don't allow myself. But you're right, ang daming nag-audition. Siyempre, I take note of everybody. May mga recommendation yung iba. Si ganito, magaling yan. Si ganito, magaling yan. So you just have to trust your instincts also. And generally speaking, you have to, in my case, I think it's necessary that you have some working experience with that person. Meron na kayong ginawa. Nakita mo na talaga kung paano trumabaho yan. Masipag ba talaga yan? Marunong ba talaga yan? Number one. Number two, yung handang magsakripisyo sa gobyerno. Dahil sakripisyo naman talaga yan. You have to. Isipin mo, ang ganda-ganda ng buhay na they go to the office, they make $1 million one day. They go home, tapos simple lang, they have a drink, they have dinner, di ba? They go out, watch a movie. Simple lang ang buhay ng mga private businessmen. Ngayon, ipasok sila sa araw-araw, binabatikos araw-araw kung ano pinagsasabi. Sakripisyo talaga.
Gusto ko lang din balikan ulit itong campaign because we're at the end game of the campaign and at this point, President Duterte has not yet officially endorsed you considering you're running with his daughter. How do you feel about that?
I understand. He's the president, and it's a good position for the president to stay above the fray. And I think that I mean, of course, we would love to have him come and campaign for us. And siyempre, yun ang pinaka-advantageous. At kahit papano, what was the last survey satisfaction rating ng PRRD is 80%, which means people trust him. Pag sinabi ni Pangulo, sabi niya, ito yung dapat nating iboto, maraming makikinig sa kanya. Kasi may tiwala sila sa kanya, 80% ka tiwala sa kanya. So malaking tulong sana yun. But I can see why, as president, he prefer to be above it all. And just make sure that which is what he's doing now, is to make sure that the conduct of elections is accountable, is clean, is transparent, etc., etc.
Your opponents, some of them, have warned of destabilization if you become president. Do you think there's basis for that, and how will you deal with possible destabilization attempts should you win?
Put it this way: should I win, will my supporters destabilize? So if there's going to be destabilization, it will come from them. Not from us, but nanalo na Ba't namin sisirain, di ba? So that's a funny assertion to make by them. Ang manggugulo yan, yung kalaban namin. So sa kanila manggagaling kung sakali.
Do you see that happening? And
I don't think so. I really don't think so. It's syempre, alam mo, at this stage of the election, at this stage of the campaign, ang dami ng chismis. Si ganito, may gumagalo yung mga sundalo dito. O yung ganitong grupo, ganito may ginagawa. So, it becomes yung chismis talaga. Umiinit. Kasama na rin dyan yung pampagulo na, yan, fake news. Maglalabas ng mga fake news.
The central message of your campaign is unity, but sir, the Marcos name is still very polarizing until now. No, what makes you think and believe that you will be the champion for unification?
I'm not the champion for unification. I'm just saying that unification and the unity is a necessary condition for us to be able to achieve all that we want to achieve. The champion for unity are Filipinos, because Filipinos have it in their heart already to love each other, to love our country. Now, it's just you have to bring to that a leadership na sasabihin, okay, kung talagang gusto niyong tumulong, ito yung gagawin natin. But this is your part. You can help us this way. You can help us that way. And we will support you in this way. Yes, pero sabay-sabay tayo, ito yung gagawin natin. Nagkakasundo ba tayo? Magkasundo tayo, ito yung gagawin natin. Yun ang ibig sabihin sa pag pinag-uusapan yung pagkakaisa. Sometimes it's mistaken when I talk about unity, pag pinag-uusapan yung pagkakaisa. Ang interpretation ng iba ay yung sa politika. Kailangan lahat magkasama sa isang partido. Hindi yun ang ibig ko sabihin. Ang ibig ko sabihin, magkaisa tayo, natutulungan natin ang Pilipinas, tutulungan natin yung ating mga kapwa Pilipino.
Sir, we'll talk about more as to how your message of unity can translate into programs or platforms. We'll still have former Senator Bongbong Marcos with us in private here on CNN Philippines.